All right, so get this. Today we're diving deep into something you guys specifically asked for, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT for short. You sent over this article, pasted text, and wow, it's really got me thinking.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you realize how much our emotions just seem to like control us.
Totally. It's like they just happen to us and we're stuck dealing with them. But that's what's so cool about REBT is like this whole different way of looking at how our thoughts actually play a huge role.
Right. It's not about placing blame or anything. It's more about understanding and then actually getting a handle on those feelings so they don't just run the show.
So how does it actually work? I mean, can we really control our emotions just by changing our thinking?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's not quite as simple as just flipping a switch. But this article made a point that really resonated with me. It said that external events, those are really just triggers. They're not inherently good or bad in themselves. It's actually our beliefs about those events that really shape how we feel.
Okay, I need an example because that almost sounds too easy.
Right. It clicked for me with something as everyday as, like, getting cut off in traffic. The event itself isn't good or bad, right? Maybe the other driver's having an emergency. Who knows?
True.
But it's when we immediately jump to that thought, like, ugh, that jerk. They did that on purpose to make me angry. That's when that anger really bubbles up. It's the belief about the event, not the event itself.
Ooh, I see what you mean. It's like we're not really reacting to what actually happened, but to our own interpretation of it.
Exactly. And that's where the whole ABC model comes in. Remember that from the article. It's like a core RDBT concept.
Yeah, I remember it being mentioned, but to be honest, I skimmed over that part.
Well, it's actually really helpful. So you have A, which stands for the activating event. That's basically whatever triggers the emotional response.
Okay, so in your example, A would be getting cut off in traffic.
You got it. And then you've got B, which stands for our beliefs about that event. So it's all those thoughts, interpretations, assumptions, all those things we tell ourselves about what just happened.
So B could be anything from that person is a terrible driver to they could have caused an accident to maybe they didn't see me.
Exactly. And that brings us to C, the consequence. Our emotional and behavioral reactions. How do we feel? And then what do we do because of A and B?
So sticking with the traffic example, if A is getting cut off and B is that jerk did it on purpose, then C is me feeling angry, yelling, maybe even tailgating.
You got it. And the point of the ABC model is to show us that C, those consequences, aren't directly caused by A, the event itself, but by B, those beliefs we hold about it. And here's the kicker. That means we can actually change our reactions by changing our Bs.
Okay, now that is powerful stuff. But like, how do we actually do that? Change those ingrained beliefs, especially when they feel so true in the moment.
That's where the actual therapy part comes in. And you know what? It can actually be kind of fun. Imagine learning to have a productive debate with yourself, but with a therapist as your guide to keep those thoughts rational.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. I've got to be honest, therapy always sounds a little intimidating, but you're making it sound surprisingly approachable.
It's like you're trading in that old beat-up road atlas for a fancy new GPS system for your brain, right?
Okay, I love that analogy. Makes it way less scary, way more exciting. But okay, so the article also mentioned some other therapies, CBT and DBT. Where do they fit in with all of this? Is it about figuring out which therapy is the best one?
Good question. It's not so much about one being better than the other. It's more like each therapy has its own strengths. It's like having different tools in a toolbox.
I'm starting to see that. So it's more about finding the right approach for what you're dealing with.
Exactly. So let's say you're stuck with this thought, just keeps popping up like, I'm not good enough, something like that. REBT would really zero in on that belief right here, right now, would challenge it head on. Is there actually any proof for this? Can we look at this a different way?
So it's all about the present moment with REBT. How are those thoughts impacting you right now?
Right on. And we might discover some things from your past that kind of fit into that belief, but we're all about tackling those thoughts right here in the present. CBT, on the other hand, that's where you really start digging into the past.
So CBT is more like detective work, trying to find the root of those thought patterns.
That's a great way to put it. We're looking for the origin story of those negative thought patterns, usually in childhood or past experiences, and we want to figure out how they became so ingrained. And then there's DBT, which is a whole other approach. It's all about learning to stay present, like really in the moment, and how to handle those big emotions more effectively.
Yeah, the article mentioned DBT being really useful for people with personality disorders, right?
It was actually first created for borderline personality disorder, but it can help with a ton of different things where, managing emotions is a challenge. It's like DBT hands you this toolkit for navigating all those intense feelings without getting completely swept away by them.
Wow. Okay, so you've got REBT for those core beliefs, CBT for digging into the past, and then DBT for dealing with emotions in the moment. Sounds amazing, but also kind of overwhelming to figure out which one would be right for me.
I totally get that. It can feel like a lot, but that's exactly why working with a therapist can be so helpful, like having a guide to help you figure it all out.
That makes sense. Someone who can help you sort through all the options and figure out the best path for you.
Right. They can help you think through your specific concerns, your past experiences, your goals, all of it, and then point you towards an approach that really fits. And speaking of finding a therapist, did you notice that the article had some really solid advice on that?
Yeah, it was surprisingly insightful. I mean, trying to find a therapist can feel kind of daunting, but they broke it down into manageable steps. Thinking about the type of therapy you're looking for, considering your budget, asking for referrals, and also like being okay with the fact that it might take a little trial and error to find the right person.
Absolutely. It's a process, not a race.
Yeah.
And here's something I always tell people. You really want to feel a genuine connection with your therapist. It's got to be a good fit. It's a collaboration, a partnership. So feeling comfortable and understood is huge.
Yeah, it's just like any other important relationship, right? You want to be on the same page and feel good about the person who's guiding you.
100%. Don't be afraid to shop around a little until you find someone who feels right.
So, switching gears a bit, I'm wondering who can really benefit from REBT. I mean, the article mentioned it can help with all sorts of things, anxiety, depression, even unhealthy habits. But is it only for people who feel like they're really struggling? Could it help someone even if they don't have a specific problem they're trying to solve?
That's such a great question, and it really speaks to how widely applicable REBT can be. While it's definitely super effective for those specific challenges you mentioned, it's not only for people with clinical diagnoses.
Yeah.
It can be really helpful for anyone who just wants to understand their own emotions better, be more in tune with themselves.
So you don't have to be dealing with a major life crisis to get something out of it.
Not at all. Say you're generally pretty well adjusted, but public speaking just makes you a nervous wreck. RBT can give you the tools and strategies to face those situations and feel more resilient, more emotionally intelligent about it.
That's amazing. So it's almost like RBT isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about taking your emotional intelligence to the next level, even if you're already in a good place.
Totally. It's like you're not trying to become this robot who doesn't feel anything. You're just, learning to be more in charge of those feelings.
Love that. It's honestly giving me a whole way of looking at things. Going through all of this, it makes me realize how often I just react to stuff without even thinking about what's going on in my head.
Oh, for sure. We all do it.
Yep.
We're hardwired for emotions, right?
Yeah.
But REBT is like, wait a minute, you're not actually stuck on autopilot here. You can hit pause, examine those thoughts,
Yeah.
and then decide, hey, is there a better way to handle this?
It's like we've been driving around with the parking brake on this whole time, and REBT is finally showing us how to take it off and, actually enjoy the ride.
Now you're getting it. It's not about ignoring those tough emotions. Sometimes they're trying to tell us something important.
Mm.
REBT just helps us figure out what those messages mean and how to respond in a way that, actually works for us.
Okay, now REBT is officially blowing my mind. I'm already thinking of all these situations where I could use this.
That's what it's all about, right? Putting it into practice, seeing the difference it makes in your everyday life.
So true. And hey, you know what? I think it's time we gave our listeners a little something to think about based on all this good stuff we've uncovered.
Let's do it. What do you have in mind?
All right, dear listeners, here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. Think about a recent situation where you had a really strong emotional reaction. It could be anything big or small, an argument, a stressful day, a letdown, anything. Now, channel your inner REBT guru and break it down. What was the activating event? The A. What were your beliefs about that event? The B. And what were the consequences? The C. How did you feel and what did you do because of it? You might be surprised by what you discover about your own thought patterns.
It's a powerful exercise, for sure. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's all about building self-awareness and understanding those connections between what we think, what we feel, and how we act.
Exactly. And hey, if you find yourself wanting to dive even deeper into this stuff, well, you know where to find that amazing article. That's a great starting point. Or who knows, maybe this is your sign to finally take the plunge and chat with a therapist. No matter what, though, I really hope this deep dive gave you some helpful insights and some practical tools to start really understanding and maybe even mastering your own inner world. Thanks for exploring this with us today.